How to,
How can you tell that's
can you
drone code? Is it just
well,
different?
look at the size of the hexagon,
Uh-huh.
and it's really not even quite a hexagon. It's almost
Oh yeah, some of
round.
them are bigger.
Okay,
Huh.
it's because the drones are so much bigger. All right, doggone it. Let's work these back together as best we can without mashing bees. Mashing bees is usually not a good thing.
So y'all would never get honey from this hive. Y'all just do this for show.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you work later in the year, you can get honey from it, but you'd have honey out here. That's where the honey would be in a top bar hive. It would be out on the margins of the brood nest, okay? And you might have several combs that are nothing but honey. But again, that's going to be after the honey flow. And we haven't had a honey flow. Not yet. Not a significant one anyway.
When they hatch out of the comb,
Uh-huh.
they'll reuse that to lay eggs again
Yes.
in it?
That's right.
So they keep.
There's the little bit of honey that they have in that drum comb. Do you see it? Pass that around. You see? That's honey right down in there. That's fresh spring honey. They don't have much of it. And that's a pretty good sized hive too. Let's make sure we didn't knock the queen out on the ground, okay? That's always a risk, okay? Anytime you put bees on the ground like that.
Yeah, that's a drone. He's got big eyes.
We just want to make sure we don't have the queen down there, right? She could also be on the lid too, right?
Well, she'd always have a cluster of bees around her, wouldn't she?
No, not always.
Oh yeah.
And the queen can be almost anywhere. See the pollen on the pollen basket of that bee?
Mm-hmm. Well,
So that's been out
he's been out.
foraging pollen, but we don't see many of those, right? It's actually very unusual to be going into a colony this time of year and not have huge numbers of pollen foragers returning to the hive. And again, it's indicative of what I said earlier, that this is, for whatever reason, it's a tough spring on bees so far. There's not a lot blooming for them. Okay, do you mind grabbing that? Let's see if we can wiggle this. Whoa, there we go. As I said, this was homemade equipment. It was made at somebody else's home. I just took it when he decided he had more than he could handle. All right, and that's just back on there to provide some kind of rain protection. Now be careful standing on top of bees like that, because that really will piss them off. All right, so shake those off your pants leg or your shoe. All right, let's go work some Langstroth equipment. You still got that smoker going? Good work. Hey.
Hey. Doing a thank you.
Hey Danny.
Yes.
What causes what instigates the bees to swarm? Why do they swarm when they get everything full and they don't have no other place to go, or?
Yeah, that's one of the things that happens is that they just experience overcrowding. Okay, they can tell that they've run out of places for the queen to lay. All the empty comb is filled with honey, and it's time for them to divide up and form another colony.
You'll have sticks everywhere.
Yeah, we came through here not long ago and chopped down a bunch of cedar trees and mulched them up.
Yeah, remember all the dead trees last year? Sure you can use it for your smoker?
No, that's a good guess, but it was because there were so many juniper trees out here that they were suppressing all the other plant life, okay? We wanted a more varied environment with more different kinds of plants. Howdy.
Am I run?
I don't think so. I am pretty scary looking though, I know.
That's a good looking group.
Okay, so when you're approaching your colony of honeybees, you don't want to stand right in front of the entrance. You know why that is? Because that's where the guard bees are going to be, right?
Yeah.
So approach your colony from the side, okay? And, if you've got old raggedy equipment like I do, well, sometimes you've got an entrance on every side and every level.
A couple of holes on this side.
Discover where the bees are coming in and out, right? That's where the entrances are. Put a little smoke there. You want to do that.
Yeah.
All right. And then use your hive tool. There you go. You feel free to do that. Judicious application of smoke is key. You don't want to overdo it once you get the colony apart, okay? Okay, so I've taken the lid off. I've puffed a little smoke around. Now I'm going to pry the super loose. Take the top hive body off. Go down and expose the bottom hive body. Now you notice I've got this hive turned upside down. I've got a modified on the bottom and then 2 deeps on top. After the honey flow starts, I would reverse it. Okay, I'd move the bottom hive body down to the bottom, then put the second hive body on, and take my modified off the bottom and bring it up for my honey super. Okay.
Did you winter
The reason I did this is because there was honey late in the fall or early winter in that modified. All right, and I moved it to the bottom so there'd be honey down below in the colony, and because of that, the queen began laying in the bottom hive body. Or at least I'd encourage her to do that, right? So when I go into a hive, I like to start at the second or third comb over from the edge nearest me. Why? Because I can gently lift the comb out with a smooth vertical lift. Okay, I'm not mashing bees. I can look down alongside, and if I've got problems as I lift it out, I can do something about it. All right, now, so what do we have here on this comb? I see pollen, a lot more pollen than we saw in the top bar hive. And I see drones, and I see worker bees, and I see sealed brood, and I see young brood. Okay, so we got a lot to look at on this one comb. And I'm going to pass it around to everybody. In a big healthy colony in the springtime, the configuration of the brood nest is going to be roughly spherical, if you can envision that inside the hive, okay? So the brood nest is going to be like that, okay? And as they expand, the queen is moving that sphere out, okay, in 3 dimensions. All right? So we have found the edge of the brood nest by lifting that comb out. How do I know that? She spirals it. The laying pattern on the combs is typically she starts here and goes out. Okay? And if she's laying all out, she can lay lots and lots of eggs in a hurry. So if you look carefully, and it's going to be really tricky today, I apologize in advance, because we don't have sunlight, and sunlight is so important to be able to help you see down the bottom of cells. But we have some young larvae and embryos here, okay? It's not ideal. Actually, I want darker comb to try to teach you to identify embryos or eggs, but you can certainly see the pollen and the sealed brood on this comb. All right? So I'll pass this around, you all take a look. And I'm just going to continue to work the colony as you all take turns looking at that. If you have questions when it ends up in your hands, feel free. This is not ideal weather for beekeeping, okay? If you had to pick a day to go work your bees, today would not be the day you'd pick. Bees typically forecast the weather as much or more than they do react to what's happening right now.
I don't see
So
any eggs
there are
in here at all.
thunderstorms coming, the bees are more easily provoked.
didn't
I
see
think
any-
they react to barometric pressure, among other things. So if you work your colony one day on a bright sunny day and they seem like the friendliest bees alive, and then you go back in, you know, a few days later and they just seem pretty doggone mean, pay attention. You know, it could be that it'll start raining later that day or that night. See that beautiful comb of sealed brood?
Yeah.
That's a sign of a great queen, right? So that's solid laying pattern.
Yeah. So does it take 21 days for them to hatch after they're sealed, or once the egg's laid?
once the egg is laid. It's 21 days from the time the queen deposits the embryo in the bottom of the cell until a baby bee emerges from that cell. So with the queen laying all out, you know, she can have, I think I've got a stuffed up, oh, here we go. I got a piece of beeswax blocking my, no, I was wondering why my smoker wasn't working.
So
No wonder.
there's a little spot on this bee. Oh,
Show me.
are they can
You
they
talking
be
about right
moving
there?
eggs?
Where? Show me.
Well,
You see-
it just dropped back in now. Okay, it's a little white spot right
On the
there.
bottom of the,
Yep.
yeah.
Do they move those?
No, I don't know what
Because
that
it was
is.
on top of one of the bees and then it dropped off into the cone.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see any eggs in it.
It was a little white spherical thing, tiny.
Yeah, I see that. And I don't know what that is. Let's see, it could be, that bee is reacting to it. It could be a bit of ash out of my smoker.
They don't move the eggs once they lay them in there. I mean, they just
No,
stand until they
that,
hatch.
you know, I'm not saying it's has never happened, but it's
Yeah.
would be highly unusual for bees to start moving eggs around. Now they will remove eggs, okay? If a colony develops laying workers and they're not hopelessly lost with laying workers, well, the bees that are
Man, it's a lot of bees.
nurse bees will police the hive and remove the laying worker eggs. Okay, they'll haul them out. Now this colony definitely has embryos on it and young larvae, and I want you to look in the bottom of the cell, okay? And look for what looks like a miniature grain of rice, like something about 1/100th the size of a grain of rice stabbed into the bottom.